Hello and welcome to the RealTime Fantasy Sports Show. I'm Jeff Paur, senior writer at RealTime Fantasy Sports. On today's show, I'm going to give you my 5 fantasy takeaways from week 12 of the fantasy football season. I felt like it was a little bit of an uneven week. Some big-time players kind of laid some eggs, but we did have some huge performances from some other players, so I thought the scores were a little out of whack this week. We had some blowouts in fantasy leagues, especially from those teams that had Jahmyr Gibbs, who topped 50 points in the game. Just an unreal performance from him. But hopefully you had some of those big performances on your team. You came out on top. But here are 5 of my takeaways for this week of the fantasy football season. My first one is, what the heck is going on with Lamar Jackson? He's been absolutely terrible the last 2 weeks. He had his second straight disappointing performance this week. You just don't expect this from him. He didn't score a touchdown in the game, threw for just 153 yards, and most notably, in my opinion, ran 7 times for just 11 yards. He scored 8.85 fantasy points after having just 8.65 the previous game. The rushing yards is what used to really help his floor, but he's just not getting those right now at this point of the season. I'm just wondering if that hamstring injury is just holding him back a little bit. He just doesn't look quite as explosive, not making as many big plays with his legs. Just been a real disappointment for me this year. I was expecting much better things from him. You just don't expect these terrible, terrible games like he's had the last couple of weeks. It just kills your fantasy team when your quarterback can't score 10 points in a game, and that's what Jackson's done 2 straight games. Hopefully he gets it right this week against the Cincinnati Bengals, who have a very good defense, but I'm not so sure at this point. He's just not playing very well. My next takeaway is I think the Vikings need to make a switch at quarterback. J.J. McCarthy has been just absolutely brutal since returning from his injury. He was 12 of 19 in this game. Not too bad, but he threw for just 87 yards, and he was picked off twice. He has multiple interceptions 3 straight games. I just don't know how they can keep running him out there. He's absolutely killing Jordan Addison, who didn't make a catch in this game, Justin Jefferson, who isn't posting near the numbers as he has the past few years. And then TJ Hawkinson's been a big disappointment as well, but it's just been bad news in Minnesota this year. McCarthy's kind of dragging down that entire offense. So if you have playmakers on the Minnesota roster, I'm just not feeling too good right now if J.J. McCarthy continues to be their starting quarterback. He's not helping that team at all. My next takeaway is Chris Olave, in my opinion, is having a really underrated fantasy season. He came into the year, a lot of people were worried about him because of his concussion issues in the past, one hit away from maybe never playing again, but he's played every game this year. He's been fantastic. He was 10th overall in fantasy receiver scoring coming into this week, and then this week, he had 9 catches for 70 yards. He's been like that all season this year, though. He scored 16 points in this game, and he has double-digit fantasy points all but one game this year. He has 14-plus points, 5 of 6 games as well. Just been really, really good. All those owners that ended up taking him this year, I know I didn't take him in any league, I think, and I'm in a lot of leagues, and I was just scared of his injury history, and I didn't like the Saints offense. But if you took him, you're really happy right now because he's a top 10 fantasy receiver, and I don't think it's a fluke. He's been really good in this offense, and Tyler Shugg has been a plus for the offense as well once being inserted into the starting lineup. My next takeaway is Kyle Pitts again. He's back to his old ways. He had 2 catches for 25 yards this week. He has fewer than 40 yards, 4 straight games, less than double-digit fantasy points, all 4 of those games. He's unusable right now. It's more of the same from him. I know he started the year good, but he's back to his old ways. And this week, they were without Drake London, so you thought maybe he'd rack up the targets. Not the case, though. Once again, he was a forgotten man in the offense. And if you took a chance on him again this year, this is probably the last time you're going to do that because he hasn't been very good once again. I think the ship has sailed from Kyle Pitts. Hopefully he gets maybe a change of scenery this offseason, moves to a new team, and they can take advantage of his skill set better than the Falcons can. But right now, it's a guy I don't want on my team, and I don't want to use him. My last takeaway is I wanted to look at the Patriots running back situation, see how it played out with Ramondre Stevenson back in the lineup. Travion Henderson did start, ran 18 times for 66 yards, had 3 catches for 15 yards. So he really dominated much of the work. He played 65% of the snaps compared to 31% for Stevenson. So this is a positive for Henderson owners. The only disappointment in my opinion was the fact he didn't get much of the goal line work. They gave that to Stevenson, who was terrible in that role. 6 carries for 5 yards. I just don't get why they keep giving him those opportunities around the goal line. Henderson's proved he could handle that the last few weeks when Stevenson was out of the lineup. Maybe it changes going forward after this past week, but that was my one disappointment in the game for Henderson owners. But overall, it's a positive. He played twice as many snaps as Stevenson, and he produced once again. So I'd be feeling pretty good if I was a Henderson owner right now for that stretch run. All right, those are 5 of my fantasy takeaways for week 12 of the fantasy football season. Hope you had a lot of success this week. This has been Jeff Paur for RealTime Fantasy Sports.